Flight booking websites are complicated. We're going to look at a real flight booking database and design a database based on it. Learn about the complex topic of booking availability and see what happens if we get our table names wrong. We're going to look at the flight booking feature of a website called Expedia, see what it does, and create an SQL database with real data as we go. This will help you practice your SQL and see how it can be done on a real website. Let's get started. Here's the homepage of Expedia. They do a lot of things, but we're only interested in the flight booking component. So I'll click this Flights tab here. If you've ever booked a flight online, this may be familiar. Most of these websites work in the same way. The main inputs here are the leaving from and going to boxes. We can click on one and it asks us to search by city or airport. I'll start typing London and we can see a list of airports within the City of London. This is how we choose where we want to take a flight from. The Going To selection works in the same way. We can click on it, find a city or an airport and select it. We now have 2 airports selected. Let's create a database for this functionality. I'm going to use the data group editor for this video and use a MySQL database, but you can use whatever database and editor you like. I already have a MySQL server installed and a connection created, so I'll connect to that. First, we'll create a new database, so we have an area specific for the tables we are creating. You can do this using the context menu on the connection, or you can use SQL. I'll use SQL so it's easier for you to follow along. I'll run this command to create the database. Then I'll run this use command to ensure it's the active database. Our database is now created. We may need to refresh this list on the left to see it depending on your editor. Let's create some tables. We'll create some tables and populate them based on the city and airport functionality we just saw. When we looked at the leaving from list, it showed a list of airports and the cities they were in. For each entry, we have the name of the city, this 3-letter code which is the code for the airport, and then the name of the airport here, such as Heathrow or Gatwick. Under each airport is also a country name. So it seems we need to capture a few things here: countries, cities and airports. We'll start by creating a table to store countries. First, we add an ID column for the country, which is our primary key and will uniquely identify the row. It's not shown on the Expedia page, but it's an essential part of a database table. Then we add a name for the country, which is a text value, so we'll use a varchar data type. We add a primary key constraint and our statement is ready. I'll run this and the table is created. Next, we'll add a city table. We'll start with an ID column, which will be our primary key. Then we'll add a name for the city. This is a text value, so I'll use the varchar data type. We need to specify a maximum length. I think the 100 characters will be enough, but if it's too short, I can increase it. Then we can add a country ID, which is a foreign key to the country table. This will let us record which country the city is located in. We add the constraints for this table, which are a primary key and a foreign key. We can run this and the table is created. Now that we have these 2 tables, let's add some data. We searched for the cities of London and Paris before, so let's add them. There are many more cities in the world, and I've created a project guide to go along with this video that has the SQL scripts used in this video, along with much more sample data for the database. You can get it using the link in the description. First, we add some countries. I'll add in United Kingdom and France for this example. I'll use this insert statement to add these 2 countries. I can run this and the data is inserted. Then we add some cities. I'll add both London and Paris. They need an ID value for the country, but what IDs should we use? Let's select from the country table to find out. We can see that United Kingdom has an ID of 1 and France has an ID of 2. We'll add these to our insert statement and run those statements. The data is inserted. Now let's add some airports for these cities. We'll start by creating our airport table. We have an airport ID, which is the primary key. We have the airport code, which I believe is always 3 characters. We have the airport name, which is longer, such as the name Heathrow. Then we have the city ID, which is a link to the city that the airport is in. I'll add the primary key constraint and foreign key constraint, and our table is ready. We can run it and see that it is created. Let's insert some data. We've got a few airports in London that we can add and a few airports in Paris. Let's insert the data for this. I've already typed in the statement here, so I won't waste your time by watching me type all this in. I can run this and the data is inserted. We've got data for countries, cities and airports. What's next? Let's go back to the website. We have some options here above the city and airport selections. The first item, return, is selected. This means we are booking a flight to our destination as well as a flight to return back to where we are leaving from. We can click one way and a few things change. The date only shows one date instead of a date range. We'll get to this shortly. The next option is multi-city. We click this and the interface changes quite a lot. We have separate rows on the screen for each flight, and each of them have a leaving from, going to, and a date. There is the option of adding more flights. As we explore the website here, we start to put together a mental model or a kind of hierarchy in our minds about how this all fits together. It looks like we can make a booking for a flight that has 3 different types. A return booking has 2 flights, one there and one back. A one-way booking has only 1 flight, and a multi-city booking can have many flights. So we could have a concept of a booking which can have 1, 2 or many separate flights. Each flight has a leaving from and going to location. This would be an airport that exists within a city. Each flight has a date as well. Let's add these to our database. Here is a diagram of our database so far. We have our 3 tables. We're going to add a couple of other tables to this design, then create them on our database. First, we'll add one for booking. For the booking, we'll add an ID. We can also add a booking type. This can store a value of return, one-way or multi-city. Actually, given that this is a defined list of values, it's better to store this as a lookup table. I've got other videos on why and how to do this, but essentially our design will look like this: a booking type ID here and a related booking type table. We could add more columns, but we can do that later as we learn more about the website. Next, we add a flight table. There may be a better name for this table as we learn more, but we'll call it flight for now. We have an ID for the primary key and a booking ID that it is related to, an ID for the departing airport, an ID for the arriving airport, and the departure date or the date that the flight is on. This should be all we need. Let's write the SQL for this. Here is the SQL to create these tables. You've already seen the columns we need and how the tables are related, so you don't need to see me typing this all out. I'll select all of these statements and run them, and the tables are created. Do we insert any data into them? Well, not yet. The data in most of these tables will be added when a user does something on the website, maybe performing a search or placing a booking. But we'll need to have some rows in the booking type table for the 3 different types, so we can write this insert statement here to add the data. Let's go back to the website. Next to the type of booking on the page here is the drop-down that says Economy. We can click this and we see a few more options: Premium Economy, Business Class and First Class. We can add this to our database as a lookup table related to the booking. We add a new table for the booking class, which has an ID and a class name. One thing I like to do for tables that have data that is shown in a drop-down is to add a column to indicate the order. So we can add an order number to this table. This makes it easy to populate this drop-down list on the website. Next, we need to add a foreign key column to the booking table to specify what class we are booking. We can alter the booking table to add this. We also add a foreign key constraint to this table. Both of these are now added to the booking table. Let's insert the different class values into this lookup table. We add these 4 rows as part of the insert statement and run it. The data is inserted. What's next? We can click on the date field here and a date picker is shown. I assume that these dates are defaulted to a certain period in the future. They can be changed. There may also be some availability checks here to ensure that there are flights available for these dates. But for now, we'll keep going. The next section is Travellers. This allows you to add more people to your booking with different types such as adults, children and infants. We might come back to this and just keep our design for a single traveller for now to keep it simpler. How would you add this concept to the database? Let me know in the comments below. I've included the final database design in the project guide for this database, which also has the SQL scripts to create and populate these tables with more data and some example SQL queries. Get your copy at the link in the description. On the website, we'll click Search. Here are the results of our search. The website has taken the parameters we provided and shown the available flights. There is a lot shown here. We have our parameters at the top, which look like they can be changed if they want to. We have this section here which looks like a kind of progress indicator, where we choose our departing flight, then the returning flight, then review. There is a series of dates below this, which seems to allow us to change our dates if we want to get a better price or to see different results. On the left we have filters, which allow us to filter the results. The main part of the page is the results here. There are many rows here and each of them is a flight that can be booked by the user. What do we see for each row? We see a logo for an airline. We see a couple of times. These are the departing time and arriving time for the flight. It shows the two airports, which in this case are London LHR and Paris CTG. Then we have the airline name, which are names like Air France or British Airways. Further to the right, we see this hours and minutes value of 1 hour 20 minutes, which is the duration of the flight. Why is this different to the 2 times on the left? It seems like the times don't add up. This is because the times are from the city's local time. In this case, the flight departs at 11:30 London time and arrives at 13:50 Paris time. There's a difference of 2 hours and 20 minutes, which includes 1 hour 20 for the flight and then 1 hour in the time zone difference. Next we have the price. This is shown in pounds, but that is because I'm using the UK website, so you may want to store the values in a different currency. Let's add this information to our database. So what are we actually trying to add here? We want to see a list of available flights for the parameters we selected. Calculating availability is hard no matter what the domain is: train tickets, movie theatre seats, or flights. Essentially, we have a set of data which is the supply. This could be the full list of flights that are available for a certain day. Then we subtract what is reserved, which are the bookings that people have made for specific flights. The result is the availability. We have already started to capture the concept of a booking. We don't have the supply. Once we have this, we can calculate the availability. Let's add the supply and add some more details to our booking. With this design so far, how do we store the supply of flights? We have a flight table here, but what does it represent? It is meant to be a single trip between 2 destinations that we have booked. But now we have the concept of a flight that can be booked, which is the supply. So I think we need to make a few changes to this. We should give this flight table a better name to make it clear what it's for, then make some updates to the other tables. Here's what I think the database could look like after we make these updates. It's a little different. The booking type and booking table are the same. Country, city, and airport are also the same. The rest of the tables have changed. I've added a table called Flight Supply. This is going to store all of the flights that can be booked by people. We have an ID as the primary key. We have a flight number, which is the code or number that is shown on those screens in the airport so people can identify the flight. We have an airline ID, which is a foreign key to the new airline table, so we can tell which airline the flight is for. We have a departure date time, which is the date and time that the flight departs. Finally, we have the airport ID for both the departure and arrival, linking to the airport table. So that's what I think we need for the flight supply table. This could be a large table, storing every flight that can be booked for as many days as you want to store. The next new table is called Booking Type Supply. We need to capture the number of seats that exist for each flight, and there are different numbers of seats for each class. For example, there may be 200 economy seats on a particular flight, but only 10 first class seats. So we have a joining table here for the booking type and the flight supply, which is also used to store the number of seats. This number is the original number that is available. Then we have a price. I've called this price underscore GBP, so it's clear what currency it is in. The last change was the booked flight table. We need a way to store the flight or flights that have been booked as part of the booking. So we have this booked flight table here with a foreign key to the booking table and the flight supply table. So this is all well and good, but how do we set this up with SQL in our database? Here is the SQL to make the changes for this database. I won't take you through each step that I did in the interests of time, but I have the full SQL scripts for setting up this database at the link in the description. All of the tables have been updated, and I've added some sample data into the tables. We can select from this flight supply table to see what's there. We run it and see a few rows, which are similar to those that we saw on the screen before. So our data is now in the tables. What happens next on the website? We select a flight, then we go to the next page and choose our next flight. Then maybe we select some extra options or upgrades and then confirm our booking. We've got a good amount of the database created for the flight booking concept. We haven't modelled this entire website, but you can take this design and enhance it if you want to add more. I'll show you a few select queries that can be written on this database. If you like this kind of video where we design a database based on a real website and want to see a more complete or comprehensive project like this, let me know in the comments below. What kind of queries would we want to write? Let's say we want to populate that list of airports or locations that we saw when we started searching for flights. Our query would look like this. We select from the country, city and airport tables. We run this and see the results. A query like this could be used to populate those drop-downs. What about finding the available flights? This is what a query could look like. We've provided a departure airport and arrival airport and a date, and this query would show the flights that are available for those parameters. We run this and see our results here. This query could be used on the search results page. Designing a database for a flight booking system, even just the core parts of it like we did in this video, can be challenging. You'll want to watch this video next where I design a database based on real data from the IMDb movie database and write SQL to get the data into a database. Thanks for watching.